is the story around the recouping of that 3.8 billion rand. Escom and the SIU sweeping in there to try recoup that money that was lost through alleged corruption from former executives, some board members, as well as members of the Gupta family and their associates. The big question the morning after is, how will this happen? Summons have to be sent. I understand Escom is still to do that from late yesterday at least. And of course, there's that real prospect of never being able to recoup the money, considering how much time has elapsed since the alleged corruption took place. So our reporter Nicholas Bauer is going to be keeping a close eye on the story for us, trying to help us get a sense of the prospects of being able to recoup these billions, and of course whether or not this will be enough to try and turn the tide on the cash-strapped power utility. And Nicholas Bauer on that story for us throughout the course of the day. Another story worth your attention has to do with the EFF and its comments over Zimbabwe's bid to try and give compensation to about 4,000 farmers in that country who were on the receiving end of the land grabs that took place years ago under the administration of the late former President Robert Mugabe. So the EFF has weighed in on this issue, pushing back against these plans, while the embassy here in Zimbabwe has also responded to the Red Berets, essentially asking for space for the country to do what it needs to do. It's questions around sovereignty and the ability to self-determine. Our Malungelo boy is going to be speaking to both parties, trying to get a sense of the basis upon which the EFF is weighing in on this. We know that, of course, the EFF has pushed for the nationalization of various resources in this country, so it was expected that they wouldn't necessarily take this move kindly. But of course, there is something to be said about what, if any, bearing the EFF's comments have on a country like Zimbabwe, which we now know operates in its own ways. Our Malungelo boy will be helping us decode some of those considerations. In the northwest, we're hearing of a municipality that really appears to be in complete distress. It's the Ramotsiri Melwa municipality, where apparently some workers there have now downed tools over their July salaries not being paid. But this is the same municipality where upwards of 10 councillors were actually fired last week for alleged maladministration. There's all kinds of questions to be asked about what this means for obvious things like service delivery, but we're also interested this morning about where these woes may have begun and if there's any prospects of being able to sort out some of those issues, if not at the very least for the benefit of the community that this municipality serves. So our Zinhle Kanyani is going to be at that municipality, speaking to some of the aggrieved workers and speaking to some of the people in the surrounding communities who are affected by this discord. Zinhle Kanyani on that story for us throughout the course of the day. Now, we also apparently have sort of entered day 2 of Breastfeeding Week. William Kize is going to be officially launching this initiative, and we're going to be watching how that takes place. Some stats worth reminding yourself of as we do exactly that is that South Africa is behind in improving what's called the exclusive breastfeeding rate. Now, this is the rate at which parents or mothers exclusively feed their babies with breast milk for the first 6 months of the child's development. That rate is meant to be at least 50% by 2025. It's currently sitting at 32%, and there's real fear that we're not able to get to where we need to be in time, given the rate at which we've been able to ensure that kids who are younger than 6 months are actually exclusively breastfed. And there are all kinds of benefits to be able to exclusively breastfeed your child, but there's also the issue of the pandemic and how that might affect that. You might remember at the beginning of the outbreak, there had been real questions about whether or not there can be a transmission of COVID-19 through breast milk, and hopefully some research has shed a bit more light on that. The theme this year is Support Breastfeeding for a Healthier South Africa. The Newsroom Africa desk will be keeping a close eye on that important story for you. Another important story has to do, of course, with the resumption of the academic calendar. This last weekend, we had heard from the Basic Education Department that there are still plans to try and ensure that the 2020 academic year is concluded by December the 15th. So at least for grades R to grades 11, they're hoping to wrap up everything that they'd intended to wrap up by that time. Matriculants got back to school yesterday after spending about a week at home. The rest of the grades from about grade R to grade, I think it would be 6, as well as those who are from grade 8 up to 11, they are spending about a 4-week break at home.